In detailing, you can't actually clean what you can't actually see, but I get my first impressions of NextLED. Now, I've been a long time ScanGrip user over here, some of the best detailing lights in the automotive industry, and NextLED is here with some very intriguing offerings in the market with some price points that are way below ScanGrip, but that promise some really impressive specifications on them. So today we're going to be checking out the line of products from NextLED for detailers to see if they can actually outpace ScanGrip. Welcome back to the channel, and let's jump into it. All right, guys, as always on this channel, I want to let you know this right up front. NextLED did ship me out basically their entire line of detailing lights here to make a review with. Now, I'm not being paid to say nice things here. I will tell you if these things are completely junk and you should just stick with your ScanGrips, or if these are actually something that are truly impressive. So without further ado, let's get into my unbiased review to see how these things stack up. Like I said, I've been using a ScanGrip for many years. These lights are truly essential for paint corrections, polishing, doing ceramic coatings, and just in general, being able to see what you're doing while detailing. I cannot tell you how unbelievably important these lights are, especially if you're running a high-end detail shop like I am, specializing in those paint corrections and polishings. Now, the reason that I actually came across NextLED was pretty intriguing because I've been a ScanGrip user for years, like I've said multiple times now, and I've been looking for something in particular. Now, the iMatch 2 over here from ScanGrip, in my impression, is one of the best headlamps bar none out there. Now, if you guys don't know me or haven't watched many of my videos or haven't watched me detail here at the shop, you'll know that I literally have a headlamp on my head 24/7. I think it's critical for doing that correction, polishing, ceramic coatings, but also when you're cleaning wheels, also when you're cleaning interiors, doing glass cleaning, anything like that, I always have these on. And unfortunately, ScanGrip has completely discontinued these. I've been using this unit here for many years. Then I looked at the iMatch 3 over here, and I could not have been more disappointed with this headlamp. The battery got worse, the overall lighting structure inside of it got way worse, and wasn't really optimized for doing paint corrections and polishing, which is when I want the headlamps the most. As you guys have probably seen, ScanGrip came out with this new really odd light that hooks up to your polisher. I've never been interested in those. I don't really see a purpose for them. I much prefer to use a headlamp or use something like the Multi-Match R's over here to mount on a cart. ScanGrip's got a wide variety of different solutions, but these have actually been great. And again, I was searching for headlamps and I said, I'm done with this. In fact, let's just throw this thing away because I absolutely hate that headlamp. And I had been looking for something and I came across NextLED and I was quite intrigued, not only because of the price, but like the overall way and aesthetics they look. They look very high quality. They look premium. They look like they're made for detailers. As you can see here, we've got color match lights, coating application lights. We've got the headlamp, a floodlight that's similar to the Multi-Match R over here. I was immediately intrigued. Then I started doing some more research into this company, started pulling up the spec sheets and stuff, and I was like, damn, these things pretty much meet or exceed expectations in ScanGrip in terms of pretty much every single category, in terms of lumen output, in terms of the color rendering index, the CRI on it, as well as battery life overall, which can be things on, you know, especially my aged ScanGrips over here. The batteries in these things are truly degraded, but even on newer models, they are just not really stacking up to what's new on the market. So again, NextLED did ship me all of these completely for free, but that does not change my review. If I don't like something in here, I'm 100% going to tell you I'm not going to like something. There's already a couple things which I'm a little disappointed about, but I want to really dive into this. So first off, I want to start off not with the headlamps. I want to start with their new kind of ultimate line. This is their brand new product, the Color Match light. Now, this light is, I think, one of the first lights pretty much anybody getting into paint corrections and polishing and doing ceramic coatings should get. This is your inspection light to be able to quickly look and see what kind of imperfections are in the paint, do your polishing, do your correction on the panel. After you wipe it off, you can go back in and inspect it. What these lights are trying to accomplish are essentially, you know, that bright, beautiful ball in the sky outside? You can take that, put it into a light, bring a car inside, and move it around the car. So you don't have to wait till it's 4 p.m. to see the side of a car. That's what these are meant to do. Absolutely critical to doing paint corrections and things like that. So I have used the Sunmatch 3 over here for many, many years. There should be known there is a new version out. I think it came out like 2 years ago, but ScanGrip's kind of on this phase of, they have been the leader for a long time. I don't think they've necessarily had to innovate, and like each new product they come out with is like slightly incrementally better. In fact, the Multi-Match or the Sunmatch 4, the names are super confusing. I'll get them confused throughout this video. The Sunmatch 4 over here, basically same exact internals, same exact color, temperature, Kelvin, battery life, all of that fun stuff. The only difference is they have a new CCT scan in it, which essentially, instead of having a stair step of your Kelvin temperature on that, it does a clean sweep. And then it also, instead of having only 2 brightness modes, basically does a sweep from 10% to 100%. But really interesting distinctions between here. NextLED, this retails at $99.99. This is their color match light again. And then if you're getting the ScanGrip Sunmatch 4, this is where I have a little confusion. Now, on ScanGrip's website, it lists at $199.99. You look at obsessgarage.com, $199, same $200. Then you go to like Sky's the Limit Car Care, it's like $173. Some other companies have it listed for $173, and then the Rag company, not on sale, has it listed at $157. Color Rendering Index, which basically tells you how high quality your lights are. It's going to make sure that the color output is basically as natural as humanly possible. If you've ever been in a shop with low CRI lights and things like that, like colors just aren't as bold, as vibrant, as bright as you would see outside in a bright, beautiful, sunny day. So that's a big important thing here with our detailing lights. So over here, we have a 96 CRI on our made floodlight. Same over here on the ScanGrip. Up top here on our little spotlight, these are 95 CRI. Now lumens, another important thing to know about these. This is a 500 lumen unit over here, and importantly over here, a 500 or a 250 lumen. Now, if you get the Sunmatch 4, it goes down to 50 to 500. That is one big distinction, and one thing that I am really disappointed over here with the NextLED color match light, and that is that it doesn't have brightness control. Now that for me is a big deal, because I think a lot of people that don't necessarily understand paint correction and polishing think you want the most amount of light possible, and I can tell you for a fact that can be not completely true. In fact, these Multi-Match R's over here, I run at 10% brightness when I'm doing paint corrections, specifically with my main bay lights off. You do not want a ton of light coming at you. The whole reason these actually work is you have a singular light source and you're not flooded with shop lights like I would have downstairs. This gives you a very specific way to actually look at the imperfections in the paint. After you're done polishing it, look back again and make sure you've actually removed them. What I find is actually using these on a little bit too high a brightness, that 500 lumens, you can totally miss a bunch of scratches and imperfections. Then you take it outside and you can clearly see them. So with the ScanGrip over here, you can see that once I turn this on, that is, it's 250 lumen and then 500 lumen. Over here, unfortunately, this only has a 500 lumen, which to me is really nice that it's that bright, but I think they really need to have something that is just a simple turn it on and have different modes on it. You'll also notice over here that just popped off the side, this is a little diffuser. Now, this is something that's really funny. I know ScanGrip has come out with this for years, and this diffuser is theoretically supposed to help you with your ceramic coating install. Now, I actually have a clip of which I'm gonna overlay here, and I've never played around with them until using it on this light. And yeah, it completely just doesn't allow you to actually see the ceramic coating instead of having just normal shop lighting. So it literally does exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to do. That for me is just something I'm not interested in. So I can tell you this coating application light over here, I'm going to probably tell you to pass on. I don't think you need it. I think I would rather just see you get this. Now, another distinction here between these two units. On the SunMatch 4, you're going to have that clean sweep of your Kelvin temperature, so from 2500 to 6500 and everything in between, whereas this stair steps, this actually only starts at 2700, which I don't think is that much worse. I think that's completely okay, but it then goes to 3500, 4500, 5500, and 6500. So in terms of color temperature, I think that's all you really need. I don't necessarily think you need the clean sweep. Where I think that's actually more important is ScanGrip and both NextLED will sell these products to body shops and painters like that to make sure your paint is actually matching. Another big distinction here and big difference between the NextLED and ScanGrip over here, even on the SunMatch 4, is battery life. Over here, 2600 milliamp hour, over here, 4000 milliamp hour. That means your main floodlight here runs for 4 hours, over here, only 2 hours. But on the SunMatch 4, if you run it down at 10%, it can last up to 10 hours. And what's also interesting is your main spotlight up here, this kind of pin light, if you will, and you click this twice to actually turn this on. This will last up to 10 hours on this, which is very, very nice. Not have to charge it all the time. That's something that's really important. Now, I will say personally, these lights are not something I necessarily totally care about battery life on, because these are not something that, you know, I'm sitting on a desk or something like this and shining it on the car. That's where I'm going to grab something like the Multi-Match R, some of their other units out there that are actually a little bit larger. Sorry to completely blind you there. Now, a couple of other distinctions. There's some things I really like over here. There's some things I don't like. Number one, this is a big issue for me. The entire housing on this, completely made out of hard plastic. And in fact, they have gone through and made all of these angles very, very sharp on here, more kind of angular, kind of Cybertruck-esque vibe, if you will. And that's kind of nice, but I really prefer how ScanGrip does it. They've got on pretty much all of their units, you can see this nice rubberized edge on it, which is great for working around cars. You know, a lot of the times you're not looking at a light directly like this. A lot of the times to properly use these lights, you have it out here. And a lot of the times you're coming within an inch, 2 inches of the actual paint. If you smack this on the car, likelihood you're not going to scratch it as bad as you would over here. So that is one negative for me. Now I will say the base over here on this is way nicer. First off, you have a magnetic base. You've got your diffuser, which I personally think is junk. Let's throw that away. Don't like that at all. And you actually get to charge on USB Type-C. Now the annoying thing with this over here, ScanGrips all come with the power blocks and their kind of proprietary cable. It's not really proprietary, I just don't know the name for it. This is Type-C, but this comes with a USB Type-A to a Type-C. Guys, we're in 2025. This needs to be a USB Type-C to C cable, and I think it should come with the block. You don't want to be digging around. You don't want to get this light, and they actually tell you in the user manual, you have to full charge it before you use it. So I think that's a little bit of a negative here. I think they could include a $5 charging brick in here, charge for it. It comes all in one package. It's ready to go. So the cable is nice, but I'm glad it charges on Type-C. I just wish it came with a block and all of that. Couple of other distinctions here. One thing I really like about this, it actually stands up on itself. Over here with the ScanGrip, this thing is, not balanced. Most of the time I don't get a stand like that. Most of the time, wow, it's working perfect right now. Most of the time I'll stand it like that and it still stands up. So I guess I'm completely wrong. But these basically have similar functions over here. The ScanGrip little tool thing, the little base over here, is way better implemented than this. So if you go to the first mode, like you would have here on the ScanGrip, falls on his back. If you put it over here, clearly falls on his face. If you go to zone 2, it's basically just like having it like this, which is kind of weird that it does that. If you come all the way back here, that is where you can actually sit it. Now, I personally don't ever really use them like this. I just handheld light just like this. I would, in fact, not even be disappointed if they didn't even have that. Now, on the back, you also, on the ScanGrip, as well as the NextLED, have this little hook situation. I've never personally used this. Again, I just use these handheld. That's why I have a variety of different lights to actually be able to use. One big distinction, though, that I really like is the on-off button here. So, number one, you can actually see your battery light indicator back here. Now, if I grab the ScanGrip, how I actually look at my battery indicator is hold this, I can't see it from the back. Now I got to do this. If I press it again, now I'm blinding my eyes. Also, to cycle through basically your color temperatures, there's a couple ways to do that. So I have it on memory mode now, which is really, really nice. So you can see it's one on, one off. Very, very simple to do. Whereas over here on the ScanGrip, I basically cycle it. It goes spotlight, floodlight at 250 lumens, and floodlight at 500 lumens over here. Now the cool thing is you can keep this memory. So I turn it on, I hold this down, you're gonna see this is gonna flash, and then I can actually scroll through the color temperature. Now this one over here, you basically have to hold it. This is a way better implemented button on the back. Again, really like the battery life. So that is a really interesting first look, distinction to distinction here, and my first initial taste of NextLED versus ScanGrip. I personally think this is a little challenging one. And the reason I say that is because at $200 over here, I do think this adds an incredible value. My disappointment with this unit is, number one, having the plastic housing, I think is a real negative for me. And then number two, not having the brightness control or being able to dim it down. I think that for me is a very big deal. And personally, as a professional detailer, I would pick the ScanGrip every time. Now, if you don't have the budget, spend 200 bucks on a ScanGrip, even though you can get it for 157 bucks. Yeah, this is still a great unit over here. But again, I really would like to see some of those features added. All right, guys, so next let's talk about headlamps. So this is the motion sensing detailing headlamp from NextLED, and this comes in at a pretty phenomenal price point, if I do say so myself. This retails at $34.99, which is unbelievably impressive. And again, some really, really nice specs that I think ScanGrip kind of needs to catch up to. So we've got the iMatch 2 over here. We'll compare it with the iMatch 3, which they technically now have a 4th generation, but I don't think it's actually come to the US. And I don't really know all the differences. I just did a quick bit of research, found little to nothing. So over here, $34.99 versus $139.99. Now again, same with all the ScanGrip stuff. It's very weird. Some sites are selling it for less. This can be had for $104. So very similar over here to the color match light. Unfortunately, this does not have any sort of brightness control, which again, a big, big disappointment for me, NextLED. So if you're wanting to improve your products, I think you need to understand us detailers don't always want the brightest light possible. So you can turn this on here right at the top. This also is a motion sensing light. Now, I will personally tell you, same goes for ScanGrip here. The motion sensing thing is obnoxious. Us as detailers, our hands are constantly wiping stuff, right? Wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi style. And that turns the light on and off 100 times. So just turn it on, just leave it on. That type of situation, okay, yeah, if you're doing an oil change and you need to do this because your hands are greasy, that's great. But that type of stuff, really not that into. So this has a Kelvin light signature from 6,000 to 4,500 down to 3,000, which is pretty cool. So you can easily change this and you just cycle through these. No memory, at least I think so. Let's see if it'll do the same way. Nope, I don't think so. So every time you have to cycle through it, that's a little bit of annoyance, but again, dude, this thing is $34.99. Let's see how this looks on my head. I always look like a dork wearing headlamps, but I don't care because I can actually see stuff. This also has a nice little tilt on it, so that's really nice to have. 1,500 milliamp hour battery on this, which is actually really, really impressive, being that the ScanGrip quite a bit larger up here, only 1,400 milliamp hour. So this also comes with a 3-hour working time and 3-hour charging time. So my recommendation, what I do here at the shop, which is why you see 2 ScanGrips, while I'm detailing, I've got one on the charger, one on my head. I can hot swap them. Boom, they're pretty much ready to go every single time. Again, for the price point difference, you could get 3 of these for the price of 1 ScanGrip here. This also has a wider color spectrum going from 2,500 to 6,500, like many of their other lights here. So there is a positive to that. But again, I think the biggest mistake ScanGrip made here was this lighting signature. And then at full brightness, which is the only way you can actually really want to use this thing, because of how bad the actual lighting signature is, the battery life is truly terrible. I think I maybe get get 45 minutes on this thing. And again, it's one of those frustrating things. Then I get to the point of like, this one's not fully charged, I'm having to do this. This is what brought me to the brand NextLED. So I think it's really, really intriguing that they did that. Now let's take this up. Hopefully I don't have any head impressions into my head, but they have done also really nice here. They've got these grippies on this, so it'll actually stay on your head. Now there's a little bit pro and con with that. It's not hot here right now. It is actually quite cold in Colorado. We're filming this in the middle of December, and I did notice my head does sweat a little bit more than it does with the ScanGrip over here. So that could be a negative, and I think that's down to this kind of grippy nature. Now, these things, I'll be honest, these things are nasty. I sweat like crazy in the shop here in the summertime, but you've got foam in here. Overall, I would say ergonomics wise, I kind of prefer the ScanGrip iMatch 2. I still think this is the perfect headlamp. It's got the perfect lighting signature over here. The light source is just perfect on it. Battery life is great. The brightness having 2 different settings instead of sweeping through it. I think ScanGrip really screwed up, but I cannot deny this for $34.99 is an unbelievable headlamp. And yeah, it's definitely going to be replacing my Sunmatch 3 over here. I'm always going to have that as my favorite light, but this is one heck of a value and really, really impressive. Also down here on the bottom, you actually do have your Type-C connector here. Again, same thing comes with Type A to Type-C. Guys, we're in 2025. I'll tell you that on every single one. It is Type-C only. We need to totally switch over. So headlamp, really, really impressed with this, but it also does need brightness control. So NextLED, please, I know you guys are watching this video, we need brightness control. Another important metric with these, also high CRI on both of these, 95 and 95, so matching exactly the same. Should also be noted something slightly different here. So the Color Match light being their Ultimate series comes with a 3-year warranty. All of the other products you see here, like the headlamp, the coating light, and the little floodlight over there are only a 1-year warranty. So their Ultimate series is more aimed towards pros. But honestly, I think this is still something that should be aimed towards pros because it's really, really nice. All right, guys, next we're moving on to NextLED's coating application light. This was one I was actually really excited to try and then kind of immediately disappointed with the whole diffuser situation. I personally think it's all a gimmick, to be totally honest with you guys. Again, that clip that I showed you earlier on, you could clearly see it and then you put the light on it and it's exactly the same thing. Now, I also use this on that same vehicle that I was coating. Notice the exact same thing, didn't really change it. But there's some interesting things going on here that now I'm even kind of more confused, to be totally honest. So this has a great retail price on it, $49.99, but there's some differences going on here. Only one color temperature, so 4,000 Kelvin on here. Runtime on this, 3 to 4 hours, has quite a large battery. Actually, it is 4,400 milliamp hour, which is actually really, really impressive. So on the back of this here, you have your battery light indicator. You turn it on, you have brightness control. Why does that not have brightness control? That is the one you actually want it and need it on. I guess arguably you could say you want it and need it on this one too, but that is just extremely frustrating. So the nice thing is you can actually pull this diffuser off. The diffuser is pretty cool. It's actually got these little magnets on the back, so you can take that off and then put it back on. So you might be saying, Colton, well, why don't you just take the diffuser off if you want to use it for paint correction? The only one negative I have is the light source is quite large on it, but it works. I just think I like this form factor better. I like the light source out of that a little bit better. Not a lot of people in this industry talking about lights really talk about the light source. Again, it plays a huge difference. That's the reason the ScanGrip Sunmatch 3 over here was something that I was completely uninterested in. It's just too big of a light, and I kind of feel the same way about this. Now again, this is pretty interesting because you've got all of these little tilt features on it. Feels actually really high quality. This is all kind of a really robust plastic up here, but then down here it's more of a soft touch plastic. I really wish they would have carried that over into this. And again, I'm a little confused as to why they did that, because you know, this is like the one that you're really around cars a lot, even though this one is too, but this just seems, yeah, a little bit better, and it's half the price. But again, you're losing some features there. You also have great battery life on it. So yeah, I don't know, really interesting. This is probably not a product I would recommend getting. I think you could totally skip this, just get this if it's within your budget. I don't think you need this. nor do I think you should purchase 2 of these instead of a ScanGrip SunMatch 4, you know, at the $157 price point. That's my personal opinion. So interesting product. I don't really think it's for me. I don't love the light source. The diffuser coating situation for me is a absolute complete gimmick. So that one I'm gonna set over here. Probably would not recommend that one. All right, next on here, I want to check out the floodlight from NextLED. Now, this is one that I would consider very similar to the ScanGrip Multi-Match R. Now, I know most people don't use the Multi-Match Rs. A lot of people are getting the larger lights that have, you know, the app control. You can change all the color temperature. These are 100% perfect. These are what I've used for 10 plus years and are genuinely awesome. Now, I beat the snot out of these things. You can see they've got compound all over them. They've been dropped a million times. That's the one thing I do have to say with ScanGrip over here. Like, these are something I would throw off my mezzanine here and not even be worried. They would 100% turn on. I beat the ever living heck out of these things, so that's really impressive. Now these over here, retail, again, ScanGrip is really annoying how some people have it really expensive and the actual retail price. Some people have it like discounted sale. These retail over $200. This little guy over here though, retails right at $69.99. Now I have not actually tried this one, so it is one that I was really interested in, and I'm really anxious to see what it is. Type C to Type A. So let's pop this open here. Set this guy over there somewhere. And really interesting little form factor here. Wow. Okay, pretty cool. So magnetized at the back, which is very much the same exact way I use my ScanGrips over here. So the ScanGrips, you can see, again, these things are just beat to snot, but this is where you can magnetize them to something like a magnetic detailing cart. These are great because on the back here, you have all of your lighting controls. This is typically how I leave them. So right at 10% and 2500 Kelvin, you can scroll all the way through. You'll see that these things actually do have brightness on them. They get super, super bright. These are phenomenal lights. And again, I don't think you need to go spend $300-400. Also, this hinge is loose. I haven't fixed it. $300 or $400 on the crazy big ScanGrip lights. I think something like this is actually even better because it's small. You can toss it on the ground. You're not worried about it, and pretty interesting stuff there. So on the back here, what's interesting? We have a UV light. Yikes, are my teeth dirty? I don't know. And you also have, let's see here, brightness control. Look at that. Okay. NextLED, what is going on that most of your non-professional or your non-ultimate products don't have brightness control? Why does this have brightness control here, but your other product that is really meant for the professional detailers doesn't actually? That's really weird. This also has Kelvin control from 2500 up to 6500. And really nice interchangeable light there. Looks really, really nice. Man, I'm impressed with that. The lighting signature, very, very bright. It is a little on the large side. So again, as we were talking about, that light source is very important. But these are units where, you know, I'll typically have them 3 to 4 feet away from the car. So you can get away with having a little bit larger light on it. But they definitely are quite a bit bigger than the ScanGrip over here. I think you can probably tell a huge difference. So this is something I'm going to continue to play with. I am impressed with the overall form factor size of this. I mean, I typically throw these literally on the floor when I'm correcting, you know, down the side of a vehicle to be able to see up at the vehicle. Very, very helpful. So having the little integrated stand here is great. Feels actually quite a bit more robust than the ScanGrip, because over here they've got these little kind of Allen key situation, and it's either like they're too tight, they're too loose. Now you do have the flexibility to kind of put this however you want, but I actually do prefer this, how it's got nice natural clicks in it. And yeah, as you can see, I can put this thing fully upside down essentially, and even hang it up, something like that. Really, really impressive little unit here for 70 bucks. I think this is definitely something that is for sure going to make it into the arsenal. Up here, we have Type A and Type C, which is pretty interesting. But this seems like a real winner to me here. Again, at that $69. Let's check out some of the other specs. I have not had the ability to memorize absolutely every single one of these because it's a lot of lumens, a lot of different battery sizes. So do apologize here. Down here, we have a 2,000 lumens at full brightness. At 75%, it is 1,500. At 50%, it's 1,000. And down at 25%, it's 500 lumens. So pretty darn nice. I would like to see it go lower. 250 is pretty nice. Again, you got to remember, I use these things on basically 10% brightness. And the interesting thing here is on the back of the ScanGrip gives you light indicators. It's saying 10 plus hours of runtime. That's why I prefer to use something like this rather than one of the handheld lights to set up and do your full corrections. So we've gone through most of the handheld stuff and the stuff that I typically use. Now, there's a lot of guys out there that have rolling tripods with ScanGrips on them. I've got some more downstairs, some more ScanGrips that, you know, I've used on tripods. I personally always don't love using tripods. The reason being is a lot of the times you're walking around the car and it's just, you got a lot of weight hanging up somewhere high, and most of the tripods are good and they'll have like wheels and rollers on them, but just freaks me out rolling around a car and that thing tipping over, smacking a car. Next, let's check out the ultimate dual power tripod LED work light. I have not unboxed this yet, so I'm curious to see what it's like. All right, got to stand up for this one. This is their big boy. This is their $250 tripod light. Some interesting things about this. I'm going to run through the spec list. Again, apologize, I can't memorize absolutely everything on here, but I want to make sure the information's correct. So this is really interesting because it's battery powered, or you can also plug it into a wall outlet, and that brings up some interesting things when it talks to lumens on here. So first off here, 90 CRI, so definitely a little bit lower than we're used to from the ScanGrips, from the rest of the NextLED line. This also has a remote control on it, and it says it's got a large built-in battery. Let's see what it actually says here. 8,000 milliamp hours. Charging time is 8 hours. Run time on high is 2 to 3 hours. 5 to 6 on medium. 12 to 14 on low. Now here's the interesting thing. 3 brightness levels. 6,000 lumens, which is no joke. And that is their high version. 2,000 lumens is medium, 500 low, and then corded is only 1,800. So that's really interesting. So you can do 6,000 lumens on the battery, but not with the cord. So that's pretty interesting. Heavy duty tripod extends to 75.5 inches, folds to 35, magnetic head, detachable hook, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I think we've got a good basis on this. I have literally not opened this, so I don't know what we're expecting here. Wow. I wish I was as good as unbox therapy as actually unboxing things, but I'm not. Okay, so first off, comes with this little bag here, pretty interesting. Also comes with user manual, definitely don't need that. I don't know where that went. Wow, that was pretty interesting, landed up there. Anyways, pulling this open. Holy guacamole, man. All right, I'm freaking pumped for this. Let's get that out of here. Whoa. Now again, I don't use tripods all that often, but this could be interesting to check out. We've also got a power plug here, big juicy cord on it. Let's also, I think we're done with that. Boom. All right, let's take it out of the packaging. Okay, so this is like a legit unit. Again, I know a lot of people use tripods, so this will be interesting to check out. Wow. I'm always an absolute monkey. I always just completely tear into packaging when you can just slide it down here. Always, always, always. All right, so the legs look really interesting on this. They look like they are fully aluminum. You can open them here. Man, we got a lot of playing to do with this. Let me figure out how this thing works, and then I can present it to you a little bit better. But holy cow, this thing is no joke. It's heavy, so that does give me some confidence that this being next to cars is going to be fine. Oh, there's how the legs go down. Interesting. And I think this head is fully detachable here. Dang, this is a no joke unit here, folks. This thing is pretty beefy. So let me get this unboxed, play with it a little bit more, and then I'll show you what this thing's all about. All right, so you can detach the entire tripod off of this, and it's this little cylinder situation here, which is pretty interesting. This is actually quite lightweight for how large of a battery that is actually sitting down here. Down here is where you actually plug in your corded power here, obviously to charge it, do all of that fun stuff. Again, kind of weird that it only runs at such a limited battery power. Maybe it's because it's charging it at the same time, can't output the same. Pretty interesting though. You've also got this little hanger here of which you could hang that like a little lantern like you're going camping. And it's got 4 magnets back here. So I've got a metal desk back here. Yeah, those are some pretty strong magnets. So you can open this up. Actually, first, this also comes with a remote control. That actually magnetizes right there, which is slick, so it's always in the same spot. And then you open this up, and wow, that is pretty wild here. So you can see plastic on the front, which I'm not too opposed to. You have a large light source here. So this is 4,000 Kelvin up to 6,500 Kelvin. And let's check it out. Okay, so that's first mode. Let's do a little bit warmer light. Holy bright, holy bright. Wow, that is unbelievably bright. Like, yeah, you can't even look into that light whatsoever. Holy freaking cow. We'll definitely take this thing downstairs and I can kind of show you. I've got all the shop lights off other than the studio up here. We can set this all up and show you this, but wow, that is unbelievably bright. So curious with the little remote here, boom, you can just turn it on and off. You can change the brightness. So that is really nice. And it also blinks when it lets you know that it's fully at the limit there. Dang, that is pretty darn cool. So you can just turn it off right there, and then this just packs up like this. So let's get this thing fully set up. I'm pretty intrigued by this. It also they put little magnets up here so it puts right together. That's pretty darn slick here. Man, what an actually impressive little tripod here. Let's head downstairs. I'll get this all set up for you guys and we can show you what this is all about. All right, so we're set up downstairs and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this thing is freaking cool. Okay, so number one, the base is super nice on this thing. It is all aluminum down here. The legs fold out nice, so there's no flexibility. It feels very sturdy. What doesn't necessarily feel the sturdiest though is this top head up here, and it's this joint right here. So you can see I've got it fully extended. Now, the reason you would want a light like this would be, let's say we're doing a paint correction on my EV6 right here, and I want to see what the imperfections are over here in the center of the hood. Now you can see the main way you actually do corrections is you're not just sitting here looking at your light source straight down. You want to be able to see it, especially when you're working in the middle of the hood. This is the area of which that light source actually is. So let's actually turn this thing on. Boom, and that is full brightness there. And we can turn it down and you'll see once it goes all the way down, it'll actually flash and tell us, hey, you're at minimum brightness. So now, being over here, we can actually see imperfections in the paint. Now, this is what I was talking about with detailing lights is, you know, it's still very bright in here. This is a very bright light, but I've also got the lights up here going on. It is just too much light. So I'm actually gonna turn the lights off here and show you what I mean. All right, and this is what it looks like when you are doing paint corrections. Now you can see, looking down here, you can see all the imperfections, all the water spots in this particular vehicle. I can identify scratches very easily. That's why it's so important to turn off your main light source like would be up there and have your single spotlights. Now, initially looking at this unit, I wasn't so impressed with the actual light source up there, being that they're square. It's a little hard to see up here with the camera, but how they're square. I'm really used to those circular lights in there, but man, this thing is really impressive. And again, I can clearly see there's a scratch there in the center of the hood. This is when and why you would want to use that. Even if I'm working here up on the roof of this car doing a full correction on it, I would move that light over. Then I would have light that I can be able to see up here. And then I can clearly see the imperfections on the roof up there. Again, you can see all the water spots on this car. This car has never been fully corrected, fully polished, and fully coated. This is kind of my testing car, if you will. But man, this is really cool. So you can see here, you can clearly see how bad my B-pillars are. I have never corrected these. We've got water spots all over the windows. This is a lease car. This is my dog hauler. This car I don't care about. This is something that I'm just doing testing on. So having this light set up here, I am clearly able to see all of that. And I don't even think this is at, you know, the lowest brightness. No, this is at lowest here. So one thing I want to show you here is if we go all the way bright, it actually makes it a little bit harder in person to actually see those, just because it is so much light and your eyes have a little bit harder time seeing exactly the imperfections. So my preferred use of this would be to turn it down. Now I can clearly go in and see around each individual pixel there all of the scratches and swirl marks. So man, that's why these lights are so unbelievably impressive. And I gotta say, I really like the tripod way more than I thought I would. All right, guys, so final thoughts here with NextLED. I gotta say, my first impression of the brand using a couple of these products over the last couple of days, I am very impressed overall with their general line. I do think a lot of these products offer a very good feature set for the price point that they're at. I don't think these products are perfect, but I don't also think ScanGrip products are perfect. As you guys heard me talk about, the headlamps are quite annoying to do. And, you know, I don't really feel like they're innovating all that much. They've kind of feel like they're at the top of the top and they don't need to change much. And yeah, their lights are really, really good. There is no doubt about that. ScanGrip is still, I would say, probably the industry leader. But I would say close second, close behind that is NextLED with some really interesting, intriguing products here that are definitely fighting with ScanGrip. There is zero doubt about that. And in fact, a lot of these products are beating them in terms of battery life and certain specs. I just think there is a little bit more functionality you're getting with ScanGrip. So for me, what this product line seems like is a great approachable line that you can get into for very affordable money. And it's not to say every single one of these products I wouldn't replace with ScanGrips. They all have their pros and cons to them. So I don't think it's like, this is a ScanGrip killer, don't ever buy ScanGrips again, because there are some really great products from ScanGrip, but there's also great products over here from NextLED as well. I think the highlights for me are actually the tripod, which I honestly expected, and why I didn't unbox it, I wanted to do it in person on camera, was I've never really used them before. I've got, you know, 4-foot LED lights with kind of this metal section in the middle of them. So I'll take my multi-match R's and I'll actually mount them on the roof so I don't have to have a tripod. But I'm really, really impressed and intrigued by this. I love the functionality of being able to have a control with it. And I do think the color temperatures are great. I would like to see more, but I think for 250 bucks, if you're wanting a tripod, instead of purchasing something like one of the larger ScanGrips that's gonna be over $300, then purchasing, you know, full-on tripod situation, you're spending way more money over there when this thing's pretty darn nice as is. So yeah, a really, really impressive lineup. And I think, again, the big thing you're getting here, you're getting a ton of value, you're getting amazing specs that are rivaling ScanGrip, if not beating them in quite a few areas. But it's just some of the little things, some of the things like not having the ability to have brightness control on a color match light. That to me makes absolutely zero sense. When you can pick this light up for, you know, 70 bucks and now you actually have brightness control, and it's a pretty good form factor there. So interesting, intriguing video. I want to give a thank you to NextLED for sending these out, because honestly, other than the headlamp, I probably would not have tried any of these other ones. Maybe though, because the headlamp was so cool, I would have played around with some of the other products. So yeah, really interesting. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Would you pick NextLED based on value, price point, and a lot of the great specs? Or would you stick with the tried and true ScanGrip that keep working for me years and years to come? Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.